Thank you, thank you. Can you all hear me? Am I coming through? Okay, cool deal. It's hard to get it from up here. So it's good to see you all. It's a real pleasure to close out an amazing conference. I think I was mentioning to some people, I wish I had this in my day. You just had to fumble around and kind of figure it out, but it's an amazing resource. Please thank the organizers for this event. Please continue to support it because it makes a huge difference. So if you don't know Comcast, just a little bit of background there. We're North America's largest ISP. We have over 200,000 employees scattered all over the world these days. And our engineers, which we have tons of, work on millions of systems, software and hardware to support multiple billions of assets on our network. Maybe you use some of them. And my day-to-day is to keep our assets secure. In particular, I work on zero trust network microsegmentation, which is something which is coming online in a big way. It's also something that's going to be federally mandated for infrastructure companies to really secure their assets. And we're obviously considered a critical infrastructure company. Before we dive in, just a little bit more about me. No Jean-Claude Van Damme. First of all, I'm not a computer scientist, even though I've been writing code for 40 years. I'm actually an engineer. I don't know if Maxime is still in the audience, but I actually have an engineering degree in ceramics. So when he showed that pottery example, I really understand what it takes to make a ceramic pot or a cup or whatever. My career journey has been on being on the bleeding edge. Not that I ever asked for it, it just seemed like I just kind of gravitated towards it. Back in the late 80s, when I was learning ceramic engineering, my focus was on glass, and particularly glass for fiber optics, which obviously drove the next evolution of the telecommunications industry. But also, I worked for the co-inventor of the NASA space shuttle tiles, which is actually a glass material. And that was a lot of fun, working with NASA, JPL, on advancing that material. And then, after I graduated, of all places, I landed in Hollywood. The new technology of computer graphics, which was first really used in the first Jurassic Park movie, was a watershed event for the entertainment industry, and it would never look back. Computers had showed up, and it started to transform the 100-year-old analog business of making film into digital processes. This gave directors greater ability to see their vision. This gave greater agility to the film industry. It helped to launch streaming eventually, and so forth. So, I started out in visual effects, but that technology spilled over to sound, editing, digital distribution to theaters, digital exhibition, and it also was the foundation of 3D that we see in film theaters today. So it took the whole process and transformed it. And that's kind of a key thing that I learned on on my path to being a DE was sometimes you have to have groundbreaking technology or whatever and introduce it into an industry and deal with all the change and turmoil that comes with it. So I spoke to my colleagues at Google, Microsoft, Apple, Intel, those DEs and fellows and principal engineers, and we started to gather up what does it take to climb the ladder? And what type of roadblocks or hurdles are you going to see along the way? And what did you do about it? So that's what this talk is really about, is career development, your career path, how do you manage it, and what are some of the things you may see in your organization as you climb the ladder. So for titles like DE and fellow, in most organizations, it's not an inline promotion that maybe you're used to getting. I started as an engineer down here. A couple years later, Somebody says, hey, congratulations, you're up here, and so forth. In most organizations, you have to actually apply for this position. And this position, just like the software we write, has a lot of requirements. And what I just learned is a lot of silly requirements. And I gotta tell you, like my projects, I'm gonna have some conversations with my team when I get back to them tomorrow. So these requirements are usually companies publish them, like what do you need to get to principal, principal 2, DE, and so forth. And a lot of them are things that you just can't do overnight. You just can't cram for the book exam, the next day or your test. It's something that generally is measured in years. And for some people, it may be a decade to get there. So when you're looking at something like this, what do? The first thing I tell people is come up with a plan. Don't develop it alone. Hopefully, someone at the level you're trying to get to can help you to lay out the milestones, both short-term, long-term, help you understand maybe some of the hurdles you're going to encounter along the way. The biggest one that I see that stops people is bullet point 2. Your technical skills are going to only take you so far. And I see this frustration all the time with engineers. Why am I not advancing at the same pace I was maybe earlier in my career? And that's because it's not just technical that takes you to the next level. It's all of those soft skills. The ability to communicate effectively, particular to the business side of your organization who may not understand all the 3-letter acronyms that appear on our slides, right? So being able to balance out and get strength in those areas, coupled with your technical expertise, is generally what your leadership is looking for. Oh, to go back, this is when I think about leadership, this quote from Steve Jobs is how I define it. And it's really about inspiring others, helping others to go beyond what they think is possible. So let's get into some of the other some of the hard requirements. What are you doing to help develop other people within your organization? Are you mentoring? Are you sharing your skills? Are you helping them develop a plan for their career? And that is particularly important with junior engineers, right? How do you help them transition from thinking about things as a job versus thinking about their career with their objectives, both short-term and long-term? The next requirement is, what are you known for? If I were to ask one of your colleagues, what is, such and such known for, right? Do you even know it? Right, I know I didn't know it until I started seeing this pattern of people come to me and ask me questions. It first started out when I was doing the computer graphics stuff. How do you do blah, 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 right? Kind of things. And how can I use that technology to help my teams do something maybe that they're struggling with, right? Over time, you'll see it maybe broaden out from maybe a particular technology that you know to maybe something which is more process-oriented. The ones that people come to me nowadays with, largely because of my entrepreneurial background, how do you innovate? How do you take an idea to something tangible? 2 talks ago, how do you test your hypotheses, right? Which direction should you go? When do you know when it's time to pivot off of an idea into something else? And of course, when do you know it's time to abandon something? And abandoning doesn't mean that it's not a success. Abandoning doesn't mean that it may not come back, but maybe it's just not the right time in your organization for whatever your idea or project is. I see that all the time. Oh, and then other evidence of your thought leadership. Where are you giving talks? Where are you being invited to talk about something? That can also help you as you're climbing the ladder. This is where your communication skills are critical, right? How are you communicating your ideas to the decision makers in your organization, whether they're technical or not technical? How are you getting your ideas into the strategic planning of the organization? How are you influencing the roadmap of your products and services? Your communication skills will pretty much either help your ideas succeed or fail. Oftentimes I see it where someone's presenting a great idea, it's not balanced technical, non-technical. Most of the people in the room don't even know what you're talking about, right? So a good idea just kind of, festers and lingers and doesn't get the attention and the resources that it needs. So if you hear no, ask why. Figure it out. Maybe just the person didn't understand. I see that all the time as people are kind of getting up to loftier and loftier levels. Oh, and thinking outside of the box, depending upon your organization, and I've met people here from companies that are innovating and innovating at a really fast clip, particularly in today's age of AI and all the other type of stuff. If you're in an innovative, fast-paced company, trust me, your out-of-the-box crazy ideas is what leadership is looking for. Don't be afraid to share them, right? Don't be afraid to put them on the table and help someone think maybe a little bit differently, right? Hey, if we did this and did that and did this, I know it sounds crazy, but that might unlock an opportunity for the organization.
If you're enjoying this, Lead Dev's got loads more to offer.
I have written some blog posts for the website in the past. I know the recordings from all the conferences are up there. You should definitely check it out.
Lead Dev can offer you a variety of things, from blogs, webinars, panels, Slack community which is super supportive.
So make sure you check out leaddev.com.
How is your work viewed from outside your organization, right? What talks are you giving? What panels are you sitting on? What industry standards, committees are you helping to direct, right? These are really important places that you are demonstrating and showing your leadership, the quality of your ideas, and so forth. And the external is validating it, right? In some organizations, patents are really important. I know like in software companies, that's a little bit hard, but your ability to innovate, get intellectual property protection around your ideas, in some companies, that is a tremendous achievement. You help to knock out or box in your competition, and it could be a revenue source for the company where it didn't exist before. And nowadays, particularly if you're on software, open and inner source is huge. I'm sure you all know that. Are you contributing to key projects that are important to your company? And are you helping your company find open source alternatives to maybe very expensive vendor solutions? That's also an area that you can help out, and it helps you advance beyond just, I'm the expert in database X, Y, and Z. So I'm gonna go through this relatively quickly. I've been mentoring engineers for about 25 years now, and these are some of the consistent questions that I hear as they go down their career path and career journey. This might seem obvious, but yes, surround yourself with people that know your objectives and can help you. I always have generally 3 or 4 mentors that I meet with on a regular cadence in order to review my career path, my career plan, and seek out their advice. One thing I do recommend, if you want to get to a certain position, whatever it is, have at least one mentor who's in that position or has been in that position. And then ask them, how'd you get there? What do you wish you maybe did differently along the way, right? You don't have to try to reinvent the wheel, right? Go ask someone and express your vision of where you see yourself similar to theirs and get their advice and opinions. Yeah, and then a lot of places, we mentioned this before, also you're all brilliant, right? I'm sure there are people that can use your brilliance, want to understand how you got to where you are. Share it out. Think about, mentoring people as well. Soft skills are really important when you reach that ceiling. You need to be able to, as I mentioned earlier, influence, express ideas to a wide variety of audiences, not just technical, but also on the business side. I strongly recommend, focusing in on this, because suddenly you'll find yourself at the table and in conversations where the decision makers are, right? The people who are gonna approve or deny what it is that you're passionate about, what your project is trying to deliver, and so forth. This is an interesting one. What blind spot do people have? And they're hard to see, right? Your blind spots, because by very nature, they're blind to you, right? This is where your mentors can really help you. And the one that I see consistently is, do you understand the business, right? And here goes some questions I think about every day, right? And maybe some of these you don't know, right? But I urge you, to get to know these. Do you know how your company makes money? It's funny, but I can't tell you how many times I ask this question and I get a blank stare back, right? Who are the key customers of your business? What drives revenue growth? Most companies, particularly public companies, are hyper-focused on revenue growth. This next one I like because it really speaks to us as engineers. What are the key areas that are driving excessive costs in the organization? And I'm sure in your projects, however many requests per second you were able to achieve last year at whatever cost, right? There's pressure to always lower that cost, right? Lower the cost and expand the capabilities, right? We live in this, right? So that's a good area to ask your company about, like, how can we better control our costs, right? And architecture and our technology choices have a huge impact on that one. Do you know the key challenges of your organization? I like going to my top leadership, CEO, CSO, CTO. What's keeping you up at night? How can my team help? Cybersecurity is easy, right? What's keeping you up at night? That people are stealing our stuff, right? Or infiltrating our data or whatever it is, right? But when you get to more of the business side, right, you might hear something. It's like, well, that's what keeps you up at night? We can optimize this, add feature that to help contain that. This is another interesting one. Do you know why your group exists? And how the company views your contributions? Do you know what your role really is? Right? And then, at the end of the day, to combine all this up, how is your work, your teamwork, your organization's work contributing to solving the problems of the business or opening up new opportunities? Because when you get to a certain level, that's really what they're asking. They're no longer looking at your architecture diagrams, right? They figure you got that covered, right? What they're asking is, how can this group propel this company to its next stage, right? And that's what we do, right? That's our contribution and all of the technology that we provide. Networking is key as you climb the ladder, right? In my career opportunities were never advertised on LinkedIn, Craigslist, Indeed, right? That takes you so far, but then it flattens out, right? Like what you start, as people get to know you, you'll start getting approached by leaders and so forth and saying, hey, you know something about this, and I've heard about you, this, that, and the other. I think we might want to put you somewhere else to really double down on that, right? And in a lot of companies, once they get to know you, they start making positions just for you, right? But that requires them to know you, right? And that gets to something which, and I don't belittle this one, getting out of your cubicle, because that can be really hard for people, right? Going and expressing yourself, going and talking to strangers, right? Like, that's not easy to do, right? So I have a couple of strategies that I use in order to myself get out there and stay out there and meet new people. Our company and a lot of large enterprises have things like employee resource groups. Go join them. Meet people from other areas of your company. Discover what they're thinking about, what they're doing, right? You know, attend events like this, broaden your knowledge, meet people, right? That's what's been great about being here this week. This one I've used for 30 years, buy people coffee. And I'm dead serious. You know, like a $3 cup of coffee could unlock and unleash things you never thought or never knew, right? And that's easy, you know, casual, you over coffee, you're talking about a bunch of stuff. And then went at a conference, because I know we all go to conferences, expanding on our knowledge. This is something one of my mentors gave me a long time ago that I use all the time. Attend a talk or two that's not in your focus area, right? It's easy to drill down in just one thing. Just expand out. See how other people are approaching. I learned so much from the lean architecture discussion. Like, that was really spot on for me, right? The whole like, oh, we're gonna spend all this time up front trying to like swallow the elephant and figure it out. Boy, I've seen those projects go sideways fast. Lastly, all of this might be overwhelming, right? And, you know, the only thing I say is don't do your career development and your career plan alone. Get a team around you of people who get to know you, who know what you're trying to accomplish, and use them to help keep you on the path, to help you reassess at key points, to help you make a decision, is it the right time for me to pivot down a different path or not? Right? There's so many people out there that want to help you. Just let them, right? And have that plan, right? So that's kind of it for me. The one thing I want to say is my career path has been extremely challenging, extremely rewarding, and has been absolutely full of failures, right? And I mean that seriously, right? When you're on the bleeding edge, you're gonna have way more failures than successes, right? But most importantly, my career path has been full of a lot of fun. And that fun for me came from meeting people like you, being on teams where we figured out our team dynamic and how we were gonna work together, challenge each other, right? And walk out of the room even after a tough discussion on what the best architecture is, right? And someone won, but we took the approach that we always win together, right? So anyhow, I'll be around for a little bit if you want to chat. I know I'm the last one, and everybody's going to be running for that number 7 train to get to wherever it is you're going. But thank you so much for giving me the time. Thank you so much, staff, for allowing me to talk. And safe travels to wherever your destination is. Thank you.